The rickety bus screeched to a halt at the edge of the city. 4 friends stepped off, each carrying the weight of curiosity and a hint of fear. Emily adjusted her backpack, eyes scanning the crooked streets, quiet determination in her gaze. Jessica laughed nervously, brushing a strand of hair from her face, always the first to dare a dare. Ryan tugged at his jacket, smirking, calm, alert, noticing things others didn't. Mark trailed behind, hands stuffed in his pockets, trying to joke, but the shadows already pressed close. They had come because of a rumor, a city unlike any other, strange, unsettling, cursed, some said. The streets before them were narrow, winding, lined with crooked buildings leaning together, as if whispering secrets. Emily shivered, her voice barely carried. "I feel this city is cursed." Jessica rolled her eyes. Ryan smirked. Mark laughed. But the air, it felt alive, heavy, watching, waiting. As they wandered down the main street, doors creaked open on their own. Footsteps echoed behind them, but every glance back revealed only empty cobblestones. Ryan spotted an old inn. Its weathered sign swung violently in the wind. Inside, an innkeeper greeted them with a smile that lingered too long. Eyes sharp, too sharp, as if he already knew who they were. Night fell too quickly. Lanterns flickered, shadows twisted along the walls, moving against reason. Doors slammed without wind. Whispers slithered through the hallways, brushing against their ears. Jessica clutched Emily's arm. Ryan and Mark froze. At the end of the corridor, a staircase appeared. It hadn't been there before. Silent, endless, inviting. The walls began to pulse, breathing, alive. Floorboards groaned beneath unseen weight. Then, cold fingers brushed Emily's arm. She screamed, and from the darkness, screams answered back. Not human, not near, not far, everywhere. They ran. The streets betrayed them, looping back on themselves. Every path ended where it began. Windows stared down like hungry eyes, unblinking. The city would not let them leave. By dawn, the 4 sat huddled in the town square, silent, trembling, pale. The rumor had been true, too true. The city had claimed something from them, a piece of their very souls. And deep inside, each of them knew the truth. They would never escape, never be the same again.
It was a rainy evening when Alex and Mia were driving through the outskirts of the city. The road was empty, the streetlights flickering. That's when they saw it, a market lit by strange lanterns that glowed with a sickly yellow light. Stalls lined along a narrow cobblestone street that seemed to appear out of nowhere. "Should we check it out?" Mia asked, curiosity mixing with unease. Alex shrugged. "Why not? Could be fun." They parked and walked into the market. The air was thick, almost sweet, and the smell of spices and something metallic filled their noses. Every stall was filled with odd items: dolls with 2 real eyes, clocks that ticked backward, and trinkets that seemed to hum when touched. A vendor appeared from the shadows, an old woman with skin like parchment. "Welcome," she said, her voice a whisper that seemed to echo in their minds. "Everything has a price. Choose carefully." Mia's eyes landed on a small pendant glowing faintly on a velvet cushion. She picked it up. "It's beautiful," she said. The woman smiled. "It is, but it takes as much as it gives." Alex laughed nervously. "We'll take it anyway." As they left the market, the rain had stopped, but the street behind them had vanished. The road they had driven on disappeared into fog. At first, they thought it was a trick of the storm, but then the pendant around Mia's neck began to glow, and whispers filled the air, speaking secrets neither of them had shared out loud. Shadows stretched across the road, but there was no one there. When they reached for the car, the doors were gone. Panic set in. The market reappeared in the distance, but it wasn't the same. The stalls were twisted, the vendor's face distorted. "You brought it with you," the old woman hissed, "and now it follows." Alex and Mia ran, but the whispers followed them, growing louder, turning into screams. Every shadow seemed to reach for them. By morning, the road was empty, the car gone, and the pendant lay on the wet cobblestone, glowing faintly, waiting for the next visitors. A group of friends arrived in the cursed city, excited, curious, and nervous. Their names were Ethan, Sophia, Jordan, and Lily. The streets were silent, empty, too quiet. Buildings leaned toward each other as if whispering secrets. Nothing stirred except their own footsteps. At the edge of the city, they found an abandoned house. Dust covered the floor, cobwebs hung from the ceiling, and the air smelled of rot. In the attic, they found a Ouija board. The letters were faded, and the planchette rested in the center, as if waiting. "Let's see if anyone's here," whispered Ethan. They sat in a circle, fingers barely touching the wood. "Is anyone here with us?" whispered Sophia. The planchette shivered and then moved. Y-E-S. "Who are you?" whispered Jordan. Y-O-U. Darkness swallowed the room. A cold wind blew and whispers came from the walls themselves. "Stay! Stay! Stay!" whispered faintly Lily. They scrambled for the attic door, but it wouldn't move. The planchette moved faster, spelling the same terrifying word again and again. F-O-R-E-V-E-R. Thin, gray hands clawed through the walls. They screamed. The house was alive, watching, waiting. Morning came. The city remained silent as ever. Inside the house, the Ouija board rested. The planchette pointed to one word. Stay. The room waited, and it always answered. I entered the city just as night fell, though the streets glowed with lanterns that seemed to float on air. Music drifted from every corner, soft at first, then louder, hypnotic, like it knew my name before I did. The festival was alive, vibrant, inviting, and wrong. Performers twirled in perfect rhythm. Stalls overflowed with sweets I couldn't resist, and laughter echoed everywhere. But their eyes, they never blinked. They didn't see me. I followed a boy chasing a glowing ribbon. I called to him, but he vanished as soon as I reached out. My stomach tightened. Something was off. The city twisted beneath my feet. Every street I tried led me back to the same square, the same carousel spinning silently, the same music wrapping tighter around me. Lanterns flickered with faces, some familiar, some mine. I stumbled backward, heart racing. Shadows clung unnaturally, stretching, moving against the lantern light. The performers moved closer, smiles fixed, hands reaching. I ran, but the streets shifted, reshaping themselves, guiding me, trapping me. I saw it then, a golden lantern holding my own reflection, smiling at me. The music grew louder, intoxicating, almost alive, pulling me toward the center. I tried to scream, to fight, but my limbs stiffened, my feet rooted to the cobblestones. The city whispered promises I didn't want to hear, songs I couldn't resist. I realized the horrifying truth. The festival doesn't just welcome you, it keeps you. Slowly, inexorably, I felt myself becoming part of it. The eternal performance had claimed another soul. And in the glow of the lanterns, I understood I would never leave. She was a single mother, driving home late after a perfect evening out with her little boy. They laughed over ice cream, played in the park, even sang songs in the car. For once, life felt light. But as they headed home, the GPS rerouted. Turn left, it said, leading them into streets she didn't recognize. The further they drove, the quieter it became. Street lamps flickered. Buildings leaned close, as if listening. Finally, the road ended. A dead end. She sighed, ready to turn around, when the engine stalled. Silence. Her son tugged her sleeve and whispered, "Mom, they're outside." She turned her head. Dozens of pale faces pressed against the car windows, smiling too wide, eyes unblinking. They never moved. They never blinked. They only waited. That night, neither the mother nor the child were ever seen again. And to this day, some drivers swear their GPS still tries to lead them down that same road. They were a young couple, always chasing vintage treasures, antique stores, flea markets, forgotten attics. That night, while browsing a dim street market in the cursed city, an old man noticed their excitement. His eyes gleamed strangely as he leaned in. If you truly love rare things, there's a shop deep in the city. Something there will be special. But be careful. Not everything wants to be found. Curiosity outweighed caution. Hours later, they arrived at a forgotten toy shop. Its sign hung crooked, windows cracked, shelves buried in dust. Broken toys littered the floor, except one. In the center, a porcelain doll sat on a rocking chair, perfectly clean. Its eyes, too lifelike, following their every move. The woman reached for it. Immediately, the temperature dropped. Shadows stretched unnaturally along the walls, and whispers echoed softly. "Don't leave me." Startled, she tried to set it back down, but it appeared elsewhere in the shop, always facing them. Panic surged. They ran outside, hoping to escape, but the cursed city twisted around them, streets warped like a living maze, pulling them back toward the shop. Their car finally appeared. Relief was brief. Through the rearview mirror, they saw it. The doll, sitting upright in the back seat, grinning unnaturally. Its lifeless eyes glimmered. The whisper returned, low and insistent. "I told you, you can't leave." In the cursed city, there's an old hotel that still takes guests, but only the desperate enter. Travelers whisper about a door on the top floor, room 6, a room that shouldn't exist. A weary traveler checked in one stormy night. The receptionist, pale and trembling, slid him a key without meeting his eyes. "Room 6, top floor," she muttered. He dragged his suitcase down a long, endless hallway. The flickering bulbs hummed. The wallpaper peeled like dead skin. At the end, a lonely door with a rusted brass number, 6. Inside, the room smelled of mold and dust, as if no one had lived there in decades. He slept. At dawn, he came downstairs, but when he asked about his bill, the receptionist froze. "Sir, there is no room 6. He laughed nervously, hurried back upstairs. The hallway stretched the same, yet now, between room 5 and room 7, there was nothing. No door, no lock, no trace of where he had spent the night. Even his suitcase was gone. He stormed back to the lobby, demanding answers. The receptionist's voice cracked. "You shouldn't have gone in. No one comes back from there." The traveler turned in panic, only to see a door appear at the end of the hallway for the briefest second. Room 6, flickering in and out of existence, before vanishing again. And in the cursed city, some doors should never be opened. It started on a rainy evening. Malik had been driving aimlessly, following a road that wasn't on his map. Then he saw it, a city glowing faintly through the fog. Curious, he stepped out. The moment he crossed the first street, his voice vanished. He tried to call out, but no sound came. The silence was thick, almost alive, pressing against his chest. Footsteps echoed behind him, yet when he turned, no one was there. As he wandered deeper, the city seemed to watch. Doors slammed, shadows flickered, and faint whispers slithered through the streets. But they weren't random noises. They were Malik's own words, twisted and mocking, speaking fears he didn't even know he had. Panic set in. He ran, but the streets twisted endlessly. Every turn brought him back to the same cracked fountain in the center square. Night fell, and the whispers stopped. The silence wasn't peaceful anymore. It was hungry. By dawn, Malik was gone. His car was still parked on the road, but no one had seen him leave. The city vanished with the fog, leaving no trace, except for a faint echo in the wind. Sometimes, travelers swear they hear a voice calling from nowhere, repeating a name, Malik. Weeks after Malik disappeared, Mara had heard the rumors. A city that wasn't on any map, where people vanished without a trace. Drawn by curiosity, she followed the foggy road and saw it, streets glowing faintly through the mist, eerily silent. The moment she stepped inside, her voice vanished. She tried to scream, but the silence swallowed every sound. Footsteps echoed behind her, though no one was there. The city pressed in, twisting streets and alleys into impossible shapes. Windows reflected her face, but her eyes were hollow, like Malik's. Soft whispers floated through the air. They weren't random. They were pieces of voices the city had stolen, speaking secrets she didn't even know she had. Panic surged. She ran, but no matter which way she turned, she ended up back at a cracked fountain in the center square. And then the shadows reached her. The city leaned closer, alive and hungry. By dawn, Mara was gone. The fog lifted, the streets looked empty and calm, but now, the city had two voices among its frozen echoes, waiting for the next wanderer. For centuries, the city has lingered in fog and whispers. Many have followed its winding roads, drawn by curiosity, by daring, or by something they couldn't explain, and all of them vanished. Some disappeared the moment they stepped past the first street. Others wandered for hours, days even, only to find themselves back where they started, with the city laughing silently around them. No one knows why, and no one ever returns to tell the tale. Long ago, the city was alive. Markets buzzed with merchants, children played in the streets, music floated through the air. But then came the famine, and with it, a desperate bargain. The townspeople gave up their voices, their faces, their names, offering them to something older than the earth itself. The city survived, but it became no longer theirs. It became a place that belonged to shadows and whispers, a hunger that waited silently in the mist. Every soul that enters feeds it. Footsteps echo in empty alleys, voices are stolen and stitched into the stones. Windows reflect faces that are hollow, eyes empty. The fountain in the center isn't just decoration, it is the city's heart. It remembers every scream, every oath, every secret ever uttered, and it waits. By the time someone notices the city, it has already chosen them. It tests, it lures, and then it takes. The streets twist unnaturally, turning wanderers back toward the heart, no matter where they flee. Shadows stretch, leaning from corners that shouldn't exist. Whispers rise from the walls, speaking secrets the city has collected for centuries, secrets the visitor didn't even know they held. And so, the city waits, patient, eternal, devouring one soul after another. Many have tried to resist, many have tried to run, but all vanish, joining the chorus of whispers that echo through its alleys. The city is alive, hungry, and it never forgets. It is not lost, it was buried alive long ago, and it is still breathing.